Hello everyone and welcome to another beginner's guide to the Division 2 in 2024. So far, I have covered a guide on how to reach endgame. I've also covered a guide on endgame in its entirety. And in this video today, we are going to be discussing builds. I'm not just going to be throwing a load of different builds at you that you should go and farm or anything like that. You can go and find those videos if you want them. This video is more for beginners that want to learn builds and learn how builds work. I'm hoping this video helps you so that you can then go and create your own build. We will cover some builds at the end of the video though that I recommend you do farm for when you reach endgame. We'll get to that at the end of the video. And on top of today's video guide, I am also doing written form content for all of my beginner guides to the Division 2 in 2024 over on my website at GCROCK.com. If this is more your thing, there will be a link down below in the video description, along with my video playlist of all of the additional content I'm doing for this beginner's guide. The first thing that I want to go over is item rarity. From the moment you start playing the game, you're going to come across your starting gear items. This will then increase in rarity as you play. You'll find common items, rare items, epic items, high-end items, and then you'll have gear sets and also exotic items. The higher the rarity, the better it is. And once you approach endgame, you're only going to be interested in high-end items, gear set items, and exotic items. Here is how a build looks like on the Division 2. We'll start with the gear. There's 6 item slots. You have a mask, backpack, gloves, a chest piece, a holster, and knee pads. And then with the weapons, you have a primary weapon that you can equip, a secondary weapon, a sidearm. There's a choice of grenades that you can select. You have a specialization weapon, which we'll speak about a little bit more in a moment. And you've got 2 skill slots that you can fill in as well, so you can run 2 different skills. The most important part of your build is the 6 gear item slots that you have. So the mask, backpack, gloves, chest, holster, and knees. It's kind of like a puzzle, and you'll be piecing it together to then decide what weapons to use with that build, what skills to use, and what specialization. In fact, it's all one big puzzle really, and how I like to make builds is I ask myself, what am I looking to achieve? I then have a look at everything that is available and see what gives me what I want. Now for those 6 gear slots, in terms of high-end items, you'll have brand sets. So there's going to be a lot of different brand sets that you can find. You can see them on screen here. I've color-coded them because each brand set will have a core attribute. There are 3 core attributes on the game. There is weapon damage, which is highlighted in red. There is armor, which is highlighted in blue. And then there is skill tier, which is highlighted in yellow. Now, in theory, your red brand sets will be more suited for like a harder hitting DPS build. Your blue brand sets will be more suited for a more tankier survivable build. And then your yellow skill tier brand sets are going to be more based around skill builds. But on the Division 2 in 2024, there's that many variants and different hybrids you can do. It's no longer just a case of saying, I want the build just to do one thing. There's so much that you can do with what is available. For example, I could use yellow skill tier brand sets and still make a hard-hitting red DPS build. And then, as well as your high-end brand sets, you also have gear sets that you can use. These work pretty much exactly the same. There are some differences that we'll go over in a few moments' time. But again, they're color-coded. We've got red core attribute sets, blue core attribute sets, and yellow core attribute sets. So now we'll take a look at what brand sets look like. These are your high-end pieces of gear. I've gotten a Rarity Holdings backpack on screen for you, and how all the different brand sets work is that depending on how many you place on your build, you're gonna unlock some perks. So for a Rarity Holdings, if I was to wear one piece of this, it's gonna increase my marksman rifle damage by 10%. If I was to wear 2 pieces of this, it increased my headshot damage by 15% as well as the marksman rifle damage. But if I was to wear 3 pieces of a Rarity Holdings, I get all 3 of the perks, which includes the damage to armor of 5% as well. All of the different brand sets follow the same suit, and they have 3 perks that you can look at and decide if you want. But they do unlock in the order that is shown to you. So for example, there's no way I can get the headshot damage or the damage to armor without wearing 2 or 3 pieces of a Rarity. Gear sets work exactly the same, but different. So I've got this Hunter's Fury backpack here, and you can see that for having 1 piece of this, there is no benefit whatsoever. However, if I wear 2 pieces, it is going to give me 15% shotgun damage and 15% SMG damage. If I wear 3 pieces of Hunter's Fury, I'll then also unlock armor on kill of 20% and health on kill of 100%. But then if I was to put 4 pieces of Hunter's Fury on my build, I get this Apex Predator talent, and it explains there exactly what it does. And again, all gear sets work in the same way. They have 2-piece bonuses, 3-piece bonuses, and a 4-piece bonus. Going back to high-end brand sets for a moment, we're now going to move on to attributes. We've already touched on core attributes. Now, brand sets are always going to come with the same core attribute. Doesn't matter how much I farm a Rarity, I'm never going to find one with armor or skill tier on it. It is always going to have weapon damage on it. So this is where this screen that I shown earlier can be useful, because I've color coded all of the different brand sets and gear sets for you, so you now get what it means. Red means weapon damage, blue means armor, yellow means skill tier. Doesn't mean you can't change it though, if ever you wanted to do a build where you wanted to go against the core attributes and roll armor or skill tier onto it. That is something you can do, and we'll talk about recalibrating further in the video. But first, I just want to go on to the minor attributes now. So when you're farming for your loot and you're picking it up, you are going to get 2 different attributes on high-end brand set gear. You can see here that on this backpack, I've got critical hit damage and headshot damage. How it works when you are farming, just so you know. If you're farming for a brand set that always has a core of weapon damage, you have a higher chance to get more red attribute rolls with that. It doesn't mean it's guaranteed, and there is a chance I can get some blue minor attributes or yellow minor attributes, because again, sometimes people want to go against what the core of that piece is. But for the most part, people probably will want to go with the core, which is why it's got a higher probability. And then you may also notice here we have this extra slot where I've got headshot damage. This is a mod slot. You are able to equip mods to 3 different pieces of gear on your build. That is the backpack, the mask, and the chest piece. Gloves, holsters, and knee pads generally do not come with the mod slots. However, at the crafting station, there is something called improvised gear that you can craft, which will give you a mod slot. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then finally, you'll notice the talent here. Every high-end backpack and chest piece will also have a talent slot, which will give you different sort of buffs. Gear sets work exactly the same. If we scroll down to the attributes, you'll see that they only come with 1 minor attribute instead of 2. Again, you'll be able to equip a mod to the backpacks, chest pieces, and masks. And the backpacks and chest pieces will also come with additional talents. So this is an addition to the 4-piece talents that you get on gear sets. The only difference that gear sets have against high-end brand sets when it comes to the backpack talents and the chest talents is that you cannot change these. If with a high-end piece you wanted to have a different talent on the backpack or chest, you can recalibrate that, but with the gear sets, these are fixed. You might be asking, why would I use high-end items or gear set items when there's exotic? And exotic is obviously going to be the best. Well, the thing with exotic items, although they are really good, you can only have 1 exotic weapon equipped and 1 exotic gear piece equipped on any build that you create. Exotic gear pieces do work similar to brand sets and gear sets, but you don't have like the gear set bonuses or the brand set bonuses because you can only have one. They will have a core attribute though. They'll still have 2 minor attributes, and if it's a mask, backpack, or chest piece, you'll be able to put a mod onto it. Where they differ is that every single exotic, it doesn't matter what position it goes in, so it could be mask, backpack, chest, holster, knees, gloves, they'll all come with an exotic talent. And then when it comes to recalibrating gear, which we're going to talk about later in the video, you're not able to recalibrate exotics at the recalibration station. The only exception to that is when it comes to exotic weapons. Again, with weapons like with gear, you're going to have core attributes and minor attributes. With exotics, you are able to change the 3rd attribute that is on the item through the crafting station. Again, we'll discuss that soon. And while we are on weapons, weapons are very similar to gear pieces in the way that they come with 3 attributes. You have core attributes and a minor attribute on any weapon that you get. The core attribute will always be extra damage for whatever type of weapon that it is. So if it's an assault rifle, you'll have assault rifle damage. If it's an LMG, it'll be LMG damage, and so on. The 2nd attribute will then be something else. So on this AR, it is health damage. On LMGs, I think it's damage to armor, and so on for different types of weapons. The 3rd attribute is something that is changeable. You can see here I've got damage to target out of cover. There's loads of different 3rd attributes that I could have on this AR or any other type of weapon, and this can be changed at the recalibration station if it's a high-end piece, or the crafting station, as I just mentioned, if it's an exotic piece. All weapons also come with a talent, which again can be changed at the recalibration station, but with exotic weapons, the talent can never be changed. And I don't think I mentioned it, but that is the same rule when it comes to exotic talents on gear pieces. Next, I just want to show you a very valuable tool. It's the Division 2 builds tool that you can find online. I'm going to link this down in the video description if you want the link. But this is a great tool that enables you to have a look at everything that is available and start piecing your build together. When you come to the website, you choose your primary weapon, your secondary weapon, your sidearm, you choose all the different gear pieces from your mask to your knee pads, and you can choose your skills. Now, if we go into this, if I was to click on a weapon, it's going to show me every exotic weapon that is available along with all of the other weapons. It shows me assault rifles, LMGs, going all the way through to marksman rifles, and so on. It'll do the same for my secondary weapon, my sidearm, and I'm going to come to the gear pieces. If we click on mask here, it's going to show me all of the different exotic masks that I can use, all of the different gear sets that I can use, and all of the different brand sets that I can use, giving you information of what each brand set and gear set does. So as you can see, this is going to be a great tool for you if you have an idea and you want to start piecing the puzzle together. And while you're doing it, on the right hand side of the screen here, you're going to see all the stats add up as well. So you'll be able to keep an eye on the build and compare different sort of pieces to see if you can get the best stats for what you are looking to achieve. The only thing we haven't mentioned, which you may have noticed, is you also have named items. This is shown on here as well. So here you can see all of the different named assault rifles that you can have. And if we have a look at gear as well, you can get named items of gear. And you can see here all of the different named chest pieces that you can have. When it comes to named weapons or named gear pieces, they work exactly the same, but they just have a better buff. And unlike exotic pieces, you can put as many named items as you want on your build. So let me just show you this example here. We have a Providence chest piece. It is the named sacrifice piece, and it works the same as any other Providence brand set piece. If I wear this and it's part of my 3-piece Providence build, I'm going to unlock all of the free Providence brand set bonuses. It comes with a core attribute. It comes with 2 minor attributes. As it's a chest piece, I could put a mod onto it. But you'll notice here that the talent I've got on it is perfect glass cannon. Perfect glass cannon is what comes with the named sacrifice chest piece. This cannot be changed. So when it comes to recalibration station, if ever I wanted to recalibrate this, I can only do an attribute or the core attribute. As it's a named piece, I am stuck with perfect glass cannon. And perfect glass cannon is just basically a buff on the normal glass cannon. And this is how named items work. They're just going to have either a talent or an attribute that is classed as perfect. It cannot be altered. It cannot be recalibrated away. And I guess the idea of the named items is that if you really enjoy an attribute or a talent, you can just build more around that and just get more out of it. So now it's time to talk about recalibrating. I've mentioned this throughout the video and we're now going to gloss over it. This is the recalibration station here. I did do a footer guide on the recalibration station, the crafting station, all in my endgame part of this beginner's guide. If you want more thorough information, do go and check that out. I will explain how recalibration works now. So from this station, if we go into recalibration station and let's say I'm farming for a chest piece, I know what attributes that I want, I know what talent that I want on it. We'll go and find that chest piece. It's just dropped, but it's not perfect. Let's use this Fenris chest piece that I got earlier as an example. Here it is. So we've got a Fenris chest piece here. This is the one that we've just gone out and found, and I know what I want. I want weapon damage, crit chance, and obliterate. That would be the perfect Fenris chest piece for the build that I want to make. This one that I've got comes with weapon damage, crit damage, headshot damage came on it, and it had the obliterate talent. With any gear piece or brand set piece or weapon that you find, you can make one recalibration adjustment. As I mentioned before, you can't do this on exotics, so forget that. And with named items, like with that perfect glass cannon piece, I wouldn't be able to change the perfect glass cannon. I'd still be able to make that one adjustment on those named pieces though, it just had to be attributes. But with this piece that we're looking at here, I can change anything that I want. So as I just said, I wanted crit damage and crit chance with weapon damage and obliterate. So this is so close to perfect, I just need to take headshot damage off and throw crit chance on, and I've got exactly what I want. But you may want something different. I'm able to change weapon damage off of this if I want to throw armor or skill tier onto it. Crit damage I can take off, and I've got all these different replacements that I can throw on instead of crit damage. And then with the headshot damage, these are all the different replacements I've got for that attribute there. All of these replacements are taken from your recalibration library. Again, I spoke about this in the endgame guide, so just make sure you check that out if you want to know how you get all of these replacements at the max values. But what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to throw that crit chance on, which is what I want on this piece. So I'm just going to transfer that critical hit chance over the headshot damage. And then this Fenris chest piece has become exactly what I want it to be. You'll notice that everything else is grayed out though. Now I've done my recalibration roll, I'm not able to change the weapon damage, I'm not able to change the crit damage, and I'm not able to change the talents. It will keep my adjustment open though. So where I've made the adjustment, if I change my mind, I can change that. Gear sets are exactly the same. We can amend gear sets here and do one calibration roll. The only difference being is that I can't change the chest or backpack talents on gear sets as they are fixed. But if I wanted to change the minor attribute, I could change it. If I wanted to change the core attribute, I could change it. And as I said, it works the same as the brand set. Once I've made one adjustment, I can't make another, but I can change my mind on the adjustment that I made. And weapons work exactly the same. However, I can't change any of the core attributes. I am stuck with assault rifle damage and health damage on any assault rifle, but I can change the minor attribute or the talents. I've already changed the talent on this ACRE, so I'm locked in there. But if I got the talent that I wanted, I could change the minor attribute to get whatever minor attribute that I wanted. And here's just a quick look at a named item. Again, they work exactly the same. I can't do any of the core attributes there because it's a weapon, but I can change the minor attribute. And the talent, which is a perfect talent, is locked in. I'm not able to change it because it's named. So now going back to that Fenris piece, which I made the adjustments on, and I said it was perfect. It had exactly everything I wanted on it. How do I get it so I can have all max rolls? I've got max weapon damage. I've got max crit chance that I rolled on. I got the talent that I want, but critical hit damage is not max. Now, do I need to go out and farm for a better one just to get everything maxed? Well, no. You do have optimization, which I'm just going to show you now. If we back out to Recalibration Station, we have an optimization menu. Once you've got the perfect piece and you've got every attribute that you want, talent that you want, and everything that you want on it, if you're just lacking on some of the rolls because they're not maxed out, you can come and find your item here, and you can use the optimization station to increase that attribute. You do need resources to do this, and I haven't got enough right now, so I can't do it. But notice how if I was to optimize this attribute, it would take it from 10.9% up to 11.4%. I can keep on doing this until that turns into 12%, and this piece will then have everything that I want on it, and everything will be maxed rolled, which we'll then call a god rolled piece. Optimization can be done with any brand set item, gear set item, weapons, named items, and even exotics. So just backing out of the recalibration station now, I just want to explain how you can change an attribute on an exotic. So we've already spoken about them and how they're kind of fixed and you can't change anything. But you are able to change the minor attribute. If we come to the crafting station, whenever you collect an exotic, you will get exotic blueprints. In fact, just come out of here. Just make sure whenever you find exotics or you obtain them, you speak to Ainyara, just to make sure you purchase any reconfiguration exotic blueprints that you may need. And then when you come to the crafting station, you'll find all of the reconfiguration blueprints under your exotic blueprints. So let's say I've got a weapon that I want to change the minor attribute on. If we scroll down here and if we find my Scorpio, for example, I can bring this up and I'm able to recraft a Scorpio. I'll have to donate a current Scorpio that I have, but the recrafted version will give me a chance of getting a different minor attribute. The talent will stay the same, the core attribute will stay the same. Both of them, they may come at different values, so it is a little bit of a risk if they're all dead high. But a lot of people love the minor attribute damage to target out of cover. So if I wanted that on my Scorpio, I could bring it here. I could donate a current one that I got, reconfigure it to another one for a chance to get damage to target out of cover on it. Now, at the time of making this video, you can't actually do this, but there's an update coming in February, so just a few weeks' time, where you're going to be able to do this with every single exotic weapon in the game, which is why I'm including it now in this guide. Currently, there are a few exotics you can do this with, like the Ouroboros, the St. Elmo's, and a few others. But on that next update in February, they are including it across all exotic weapons, so just bear that in mind. And damage to target out of cover is probably like the meta minor attribute for every weapon in the game. So come February and come that update, if there's any exotics you want to change, you can do that here. You can get damage to target out of cover as an attribute on it, and then you can go to the optimization station that we just discussed to optimize it to make sure it is all god rolled. Before we move on, and while we were at the crafting station, I mentioned improvised gear before. Improvised gear can be crafted here, and it allows you to put more mods on your build. So as we discussed earlier, any mask, backpack or chest piece can have a mod put onto it. But if you wanted to put a mod on your gloves, knee pads or holster, you can craft improvised pieces. So let's go into gloves. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll have a blueprint once you've got it unlocked called improvised gloves. And when you craft these, it's going to craft with no brand set. So you won't get any brand set bonus for wearing these. You will still get a core attribute, 2 minor attributes that can be adjusted with 1 recalibration roll. But you'll have the added benefit of being able to put a mod onto it. So at a cost of a brand set bonus, you get an extra mod. When you craft these improvised pieces, they don't have a core attribute that always comes with them. You've got a complete random chance to get any core attributes, so weapon damage, armor, or skill tier, and any 2 minor attributes as well. So they can be quite difficult to craft them with all the right attributes that you want. But again, remember, you will get 1 recalibration roll to correct that if you just one of them off. And these improvised pieces really do enable you just to go a little bit further with your build furry crafting if there's certain things that you're looking for out of a build. So as an example, one of the builds I like to make is a protection from elite tank build, and I want as much protection from elite on my build as possible. Well, protection from elite is a mod, so I want more than 3 mod slots. So I normally wear 2 improvised pieces on this build, so it gives me those 2 extra mod slots to put more protection from elites on the build. It's that sort of thinking that you'll be going through when you're using these pieces. And finally, specializations. These are kind of like the final part to your build. You know what build you want, you know what you're looking to create, and your specialization is kind of like the icing on the cake, so to speak. There's 6 different ones to choose from. They're not just a weapon to use, but they all have different perks that can accommodate your build. So we've got the firewall, gunner, technician, demolitionist, survivalist, and sharpshooter. If you go into inspect one of these, you can see what perks that you get. So for like with demolitionist here, we will be giving group members 5% damage to targets out of cover. I can ignore explosions once every 60 seconds. I can get 50% pulse resistance. When my armor is reduced to 0, it refills all main weapon clip ammo, and there's so much more. There's also extra weapon damage and things like that. So sometimes, depending on the build that you make, there might be a specialization that just far outshines all the others with what you're trying to achieve. So make sure you have a look at these to see if that is the case, to make sure you just make that build the best that it can be. And then I guess the last thing to consider is your skills. For many builds, especially DPS builds, skills don't really matter. You can change them on the fly while you're playing, and sometimes you mainly use skills for different situations. There are some builds that you make though that might be heavily revolved around skills. Like for example, a healer build. With a healer build, you're going to be using a restorer hive and probably a reinforcer chem launcher. So if you are creating builds around skills, you can always look at how the build is adjusting the skill by going into it and just viewing all the different stats for your skill here. It'll tell you the cooldown that it's got, the duration, the health, the damage, the PvP damage, or whatever is relevant to that skill. And then it'll show you how that increases as you go up skill tiers. And then on top of that, if we just go back out to our build, you also have some overall stats at the top. It's just a tab here. You can have a look at these stats just to have a look at all the different statistics that are involved around the build you have created. That is everything you need to know about creating builds on the Division 2 in 2024. If you are a beginner. I hope it's been helpful, and I just want to close the video off now with some build examples. But first, how best to grind gear. So you've used that website, you've got it all noted down, you know what you want to go and find. Here's the best way to do it, and you do need to own the expansion to do it. If you don't own Warlords of New York, you won't be able to do this, and you'll just be stuck to the normal level 30 endgame. From the main map, if you go and press show targeted loot, it'll say at the bottom of the screen what to press for that. It'll show you every bit of targeted loot that is on the map. And targeted loot is what you want to aim for when you're trying to grind out your build. Say that you've put a build together and there's 3 Providence pieces that you need. Well, you'll have a look at this and you'll look for where you can get Providence from. Here today, I can get Providence from DCD headquarters. So if I keep on playing this mission over and over, I've got a good chance that plenty of Providence pieces will drop. And that's basically how you target your grind. And this will change every 24 hours. However, if you own the expansion, you'll have the countdown game mode, which is over here. And this is OP for farming gear. If we open up the targeted loot for countdown, you're actually able to select exactly what you want to target, whether it be a gear set, a brand set, a certain weapon. There's chance exotics will drop as well when you target certain weapons or certain items there, and it really is the best way to farm. Just select what you're looking for, what you're targeting. You can even do mods. And in this mode, you are gonna get a lot of gear, a lot of targeted gear. So make sure you're playing this. You can matchmake it with anyone. It's pretty easy to do. Play it on challenging for it to be the most efficient way. You'll pick up a ton of loot, and when you come out, you'll probably have half of your build in one go for most cases. Use countdown to create any build that you can come up with on the game, and it is the fastest way to do it. There are obviously some exceptions. Not all loot is available in a general loot pool. This is something else you got to think about. There's some exotics that are locked behind raids or the incursion or other pieces of content. But in general, most stuff is available in the general loot pool, and you'll find it in countdown. Now, to finish, I'm just going to show you some build examples and kind of go over everything that's been discussed in today's video. I'll show you two builds. Again, if you just want build videos that you can just copy and use, there's going to be a load of videos on YouTube from different creators that you can go and watch. I've got plenty on there myself. Go and check them out. Have a Google, search for the best sort of build for whatever it is that you want. You'll find plenty of options that you can use, and maybe even just use as a blueprint to then alter to suit your playstyle. But now I'll just go over two builds for you, my thought process behind them, and what they look like. So this build here is a build that I wanted to output a lot of damage with. I was using it on the incursion Paradise Lost, and I wanted some for the final boss. So the build's very specific just for that final boss encounter, and I wanted a ton of damage, and I wanted to be able to increase that damage quite dramatically when I was just targeting the final two bosses at the end. So one of the best gear sets in the game right now for damage builds and high DPS is Striker. So I've gone with Striker, and you can see here what Striker does. For 2 pieces, it gives me weapon handling, 3 pieces rate of fire, 4 pieces, I guess, Striker's Gamble, where weapon hits increase total weapon damage by 0.65%, stacking up to 100 times, and I lose stacks as well. What's good about this is on the final boss of Paradise Lost, I am just focusing on the boss, which means I'm going to get these stacks up very, very quickly, really increasing my damage. Now, on this piece, I've got weapon damage, I've got headshot damage, and a headshot damage mod. The reason I'm going headshot damage on this is because I'm going to be shooting them in the head. Crit damage may have also worked, the crit damage sort of build, but I thought I'd try headshot damage, so that's what I went with. And I filled the mask, backpack, chest, and holster with those pieces, and they all had the same attributes. Weapon damage, headshot damage. I put mods for headshot damage on the chest and back also. And with Striker, if we have a look at the backpack, the talent I get with it is risk management, which increases my total weapon damage gain per stack of Striker's Gamble from 0.65 to 1%. So that, by wearing the backpack, it just improves the Striker's Gamble. And for the Striker chest piece here, I get Press the Advantage, increases max stacks of Striker's Gamble from 100 to 200. So again, it makes that even better. It means I hit very, very hard when I get to those max stats. I had 2 more pieces I had to fill. I went with this exotic here, which is the Bloody Knuckles. It comes with weapon damage, critical hit chance, and critical hit damage. Not perfect, because I would have wanted headshot damage there, but the reason I put this in is because of the exotic talent called Over the Top. Basically, with this talent, by damaging an enemy with a grenade or striking them with a melee attack, it's going to activate Seeing Red. And Seeing Red grants 25% weapon damage and 100% to melee damage. And it lasts for 20 seconds and has a 60-second cooldown once that runs out. So while I'm on Paradise Lost at the boss at the very end and I want to do a ton of damage, I'm going to quickly melee them. And I've got 20 seconds of increased damage of 25%. And then finally, to finish the build off here, I've gone with the Fox's Prayer knee pads. I'm not taking advantage of the rifle damage there that I get with that brand set, but it comes with weapon damage and the perfect attribute 8% damage to target out of cover. These are kind of like the best in slot for knee pads in the game, and you'll find these on pretty much any good DPS build. And I was able to roll headshot damage as well, which is the other attribute that I was looking for. For this build, skills don't really matter so much. I run it with a Revive Hive and a Decoy. The Decoy helps on the boss fight just to take some aggro. And in the weapons, I can pretty much use any weapons that I want. Assault rifles and SMGs work very good with Striker, so I go with the Ouroboros SMG, which is an exclusive exotic to the Paradise Lost incursion. You got to get it from that, and it hits super hard, that weapon. It does a ton of damage with this build. And the secondary I don't even use on the build, that's just there because it has to be. Same with the sidearm, same with the grenade. But the specialization, I use the firewall on this build, and the reason for that is one of the perks, as we discussed earlier, is that any enemy that is within 10 meters of me is gonna take an additional 10% damage. And I think that's from all sources. So because of the situation I'm in, just shooting at the boss and being within that 10 meters, I'm going to increase my whole squad's team damage against that enemy by just wearing the specialization and not even thinking no more of it. So that's one build for you, and how I created it and why I created it. And it's sort of things like this you want to think about when you're making builds. You know, what do you want to get out of it, and what gives you the best way of getting that out of a build. Moving on to my final example build now, and it's a healer build. When I'm making a healer build, for me, it's all about obviously healing your squad. It's keeping them alive. But what you can also do with healer builds is you can use it as a bit of a support build as well. There's all sorts of different things you can do. So I'm going to show you how I build this one. This is quite a standard healer build, if I'm being honest with you. For this, I use 4 pieces of the Future Initiative gear set. 2 pieces of this gives me 30% repair skills. So repair skills is how much repairs going out to yourself and your squad. 3 pieces will give me 15% skill haste, which makes my cooldown shorter, and 30% skill duration, which makes my skills last longer. 4 pieces gives me the ground control talent, and this increases mine and my allies' total weapon damage and skill damage by 15% when they're at full armor. So as long as I can keep my team healed at full armor, they're gaining that additional damage there, which is very good. And when I repair an ally, myself and all allies within 5 meters of me are also repaired for 60% of that amount, so it increases the repair there. It's a very good set for a healing build, and I have skill tier on it, repair skills on it, repair skills mod on it. Go back to the build, I have it in mask, chest, holster, and knees. Every single one's the same, skill tier and repair skills, and the mod's the same on the chest piece. With the chest piece though, as you know, we've got a gear set talent also with the chest, and that on this gear set is tactical superiority, which increases the ground control damage bonus from 15% to 25%. So my team and I are getting 25% extra skill damage and weapon damage when we're at full armor. To finish off this build, I go with an Alps backpack because for 1 piece Alps, it's giving me 20% repair skills, which is something I want on the build. I'm having skill tier again. I want this to be at 6 skill tier, so every piece is skill tier. The attribute there is skill damage and repair skills. That's not perfect. If I wanted a perfect piece, the skill damage would be skill haste. I just haven't found it yet. And you've got a repair skills mod as well. My backpack talent, I've never really found a backpack talent that really suits healing. So what I do is I always throw opportunistic on a healer build because enemies I hit with a shotgun and marksman rifle amplify the damage that they take by 10% from all sources for 5 seconds. So with this build, not only am I given the ground control talent from Future Initiative for the extra damage, I can fire a shotgun at a target and they'll take even more damage. So my primary weapon there is a shotgun, and I use the Scorpio because it has lots of other benefits as well. If I keep shooting a target with the Scorpio, it's going to be adding all of these effects: poison, disorient, shock, and it also then increases the damage by 20% once you hit them 7 times. It's a very OP shotgun and it's great on any healer build. So I match that with the backpack and I can support my team with a lot of extra damage as well as heal them. And the final piece I use on this build is the BTSU gloves. They come with skill tier, skill haste, and repair skills, so it's perfect for the build in terms of attributes. And the talent is Transference Overclock. It grants 15% hive skill haste per skill tier, and detonating a hive refreshes your skill cooldowns and grants overcharge for 15 seconds. If a skill tier 6, this effect also applies to all allies. This is why I want to be a skill tier 6. It has a cooldown of 120 seconds, but every 120 seconds, I can destroy my hive, and it's going to give me overcharge and refresh my whole squad skills. This is great as a healer because if you're healing and your teammates have got revive hives, are going down, they're using the revive hives to get up. Their revive hive cooldown, especially on a DPS build, is quite long. So if I've got a overcharge that I can use, I can just overcharge the hive by destroying it and get their hive back right away. So they've got the revive hive back right away. It gives them a tremendous amount of survivability on top of everything else that this build gives them. The skills on a healer build are important. I go with the Restorer Hive because that is what's going to heal people if they're inside of it. And a Chem Launcher, I can use this like a gun and shoot chems at people to heal them. The Flame Grenade is very good, or the Incendiary Grenade is very good on a healer. I can throw this out if there's like spawns of enemies to set them all on fire, just to kind of distract them. And finally, the Specialization, I use the Sharpshooter because one of the perks on this increases my outgoing healing, which makes my heals even better with all of the rest of the repair skills that are on the build. There are so many different builds that you can make on a Division 2, and it really is probably one of my favorite parts of the game. Just putting together different sort of builds, testing them out, seeing if I can improve on stuff. And the Division do a good job of adding new stuff all of the time. We get new exotics added, new brand sets added, new gear sets added, and it changes everything because you could have something that you really like, but then further down the line, they include something else and it just makes you rethink everything. It keeps the game fresh. It's a fun activity to partake in. The grind is very fun as well, and it's very rewarding. Again, there's loads of different build videos out there if like the whole furry crafting and build making isn't your thing, and you can just copy what others do to get the job done. But I guess the end goal of creating builds when you first get to endgame is just to tackle the more difficult content. You've got raids, you've got incursion, you've got legendaries, you've got all sorts of things to do, and there's different builds that can just make it easier for you to achieve it. As a beginner to the Division 2 and reaching endgame for the first time, I guess I'd recommend that you make a couple of types of builds. Make a DPS build that is hard hitting with your guns. Make a tank build so you can be very tanky and support your team through that. You can make team support builds where you're just giving your teams buffs. You can create a healer build to heal your team. You can also make a skill build as well, where you're letting your skills do the work, and that can be very beneficial as well. If you have different types of builds like this, you're pretty much going to be setting yourself up to complete any content in the game. And that does bring us to the end of this video. I know it's been a long one, but I do hope it's been helpful. I like this different take on like how to create builds on the Division 2 rather than just tell you what to do, because it, as I've just mentioned, it's the most fun that you can have in the game for some people. And if you've not even played the game yet, or you're just going through it and you're wondering what the builds are about, that's what I was aiming to cover today. So I hope I did a good job. Please hit like, hit subscribe, and go and check out my other beginner guides if you want to down in the video description. Until next time, thank you for watching this one. Take care and peace out.